There's a man living inside your head. Not literally stay with this, but psychologically. There's a masculine presence in your psyche that's been influencing every major decision you've ever made, every relationship you've chosen, every career move, every moment of self-doubt or sudden confidence. And here's the wild part. Most women have no idea he's there. Carl Jung called him the animus, and understanding what stage your animus is at might be the most revelatory thing you discover about yourself this year. Because depending on his development, he's either your greatest ally or your worst enemy. This video will walk you through a test, not a BuzzFeed quiz, but a real psychological assessment based on Jungian depth psychology. By the end, you'll know exactly which of the 4 stages you're at, what that means for your life, and most importantly, how to evolve to the next level. Fair warning, some of what you discover might be uncomfortable, but that discomfort, that's growth knocking. Before diving into the test, let's establish why this matters so much. Perhaps you've spent years wondering why you keep making the same mistakes. Different men, same dysfunction. Different jobs, same dissatisfaction. Different cities, same feeling of being lost. Maybe you lie awake at night, arguing with yourself, literally having full conversations in your head, debating every decision, criticizing every choice made that day. One voice says, "You should have spoken up in that meeting." Another replies, "No, you would have sounded stupid." Then the first voice again, "That's exactly why you'll never get promoted. You're weak. This seems like anxiety, maybe depression, possibly just the internal chaos of modern life." But Jung had a different explanation. That critical voice? That's not you. That's an undeveloped aspect of the psyche, the inner masculine operating at a primitive stage, doing what undeveloped masculine energy does, criticizing, attacking, undermining. Understanding this changes everything. Not overnight, but gradually. Because once you see the animus, once you understand what stage he's at, you can start working with him instead of being controlled by him. Jung identified 4 distinct stages of animus development. And here's what most people don't realize. You're not just at one stage. Movement happens between them depending on the situation, the stress level, the area of life. But there's usually one dominant stage, a baseline, and that baseline determines the quality of the entire psychological life. Women at stage 1 struggle with basic autonomy. Women at stage 2 are stuck in toxic relationship patterns. Women at stage 3 have achieved success but feel strangely empty. And women at stage 4? They're operating on a completely different level, integrated, wise, genuinely powerful in a way that doesn't need to prove itself. Let's figure out where you are. Jung called the first stage the man of mere physical power, the primitive, instinctual masculine. At this stage, the animus is like a caveman. All impulse, physicality, and brute force. No nuance, no sophistication, no subtlety. When the animus operates at stage 1, he shows up as raw, unfiltered reactions. Rage, lust, impulsive decisions. Black and white thinking. He's the voice that says, just leave when a partner annoys you. Just quit when work is hard. Just do it when contemplating something reckless. Answer these honestly. Do you find yourself having explosive emotional reactions that surprise even you? Like one moment everything's fine, and the next you're slamming doors or saying things immediately regretted. When angry, do you fantasize about physical confrontation? Not necessarily acting on it, but imagining throwing things, hitting someone, destroying something? Do you make major life decisions impulsively, quitting jobs without a plan, ending relationships in a moment of anger, moving cities on a whim, and then later wonder what possessed you? When attracted to someone, is it intensely physical and immediate? Are you drawn to bad boys or men who are overtly masculine, maybe even aggressive or dangerous? Do you struggle with basic assertion? Like, You can't set boundaries calmly. It's either saying nothing and seething internally, or exploding. When that critical voice speaks, does it use crude, harsh language? You're so stupid. You're fat. You're worthless. Nobody likes you. Blunt, cutting, primitive. If you answered yes to most of these, the primary operation is at stage 1. Here's the thing about stage 1. It's not bad. It's just undeveloped. Everyone starts here. A young girl, especially one who's been taught to be overly passive or feminine, often has an animus stuck at this primitive stage because healthy masculine energy was never learned or integrated. At stage 1, the animus has no finesse. He's like a toddler throwing a tantrum. When assertiveness is needed, he gives aggression. When strength is required, he gives rigidity. When courage is necessary, he gives recklessness. The stage 1 animus shows up in relationships as all-consuming passion followed by explosive fights. There's attraction to men who embody this raw masculinity because the undeveloped animus gets projected onto them. The tattooed guy on the motorcycle, the athlete, the aggressive alpha male. The attraction feels like desire for them, but really, it's attraction to the masculine energy that hasn't been integrated yet. This pattern appears constantly in young women. At 22, many date guys who are textbook stage 1 masculine. Unpredictable, physically imposing, exciting in a dangerous way. The relationship is intense passionate sex, explosive fights, dramatic breakups, and reunions. It feels like real love because it's so physically and emotionally intense. It's not love. It's the stage 1 animus recognizing itself. At stage 1, there's struggle with personal power. Either there's no access to it, passive behavior, inability to speak up, constant victimization, or there's too much access in a destructive way. Aggression, bulldozing people, burning bridges. The critical voice at this stage is brutal and simplistic. It doesn't give constructive feedback. It just attacks. You're ugly. You're stupid. You're unlovable. Period. No nuance. No solution. Just primitive, destructive criticism. If you're at stage 1, the work is developing conscious control over these impulses, learning the difference between assertion and aggression, between strength and rigidity, between passion and possession. Start noticing when the primitive animus takes over. What triggers him? Criticism? Rejection? Feeling powerless? Once the pattern becomes visible, interruption becomes possible. When that surge of impulsive energy hits, that urge to explode or flee or act recklessly pause. Literally count to 10. Ask, what do I actually need right now? What would be the mature response here? Logos needs development, the capacity for logical thinking, planning, strategy. The stage 1 animus has no patience, no long-term thinking. He wants what he wants now. The job is introducing time, reflection, and consequence into decision-making. And crucially, stop projecting the animus onto primitive men. Start noticing what's actually valuable in a partner beyond raw physical attraction and intensity. Is it communication? Problem solving? Stability? Those are higher stage masculine qualities, and they can't be attracted until they start developing internally. At stage 2, the animus evolves into what Jung called the man of action or the romantic man. He's no longer just brute force. He's developed purpose, goals, initiative. He's the hero, the adventurer, the achiever. He has direction and determination. This sounds positive, and in many ways it is. Stage 2 is where most functional adult women operate. But there's a shadow side here that's incredibly important to understand. Consider these carefully. Is self-definition primarily through achievement? Career title? Accomplishments? Productivity? Is there worthlessness on days when nothing gets accomplished? Is there driving force from external validation? The need to be recognized, praised, seen as successful or special or impressive? In relationships, is there attraction to ambitious men? Men with plans, goals, status? The entrepreneur, the artist with a vision, the man who's going somewhere? Is there struggle with rest? Does downtime feel like wasted time? Is there always a need to be doing something productive? When making decisions, is it often about how others will perceive you? What will people think? How will this look? Will this impress them? Is the internal voice now more sophisticated than stage one? Instead of just calling you stupid? Does he tell you all the ways you're failing to live up to potential? You should be further along by now. Everyone else is succeeding. You're falling behind. Is there a romanticized idea of love? A belief in a perfect partner out there who will complete you, save you, make life meaningful? If this sounds familiar, the operation is at stage 2. Stage 2 is tricky because society rewards it. We celebrate the girl boss, the high achiever, the woman with ambition. And there's nothing wrong with ambition. The problem arises when sense of self becomes entirely dependent on external achievement and validation. At stage 2, the animus has evolved past primitive impulses, but he's now attached to ego accomplishment. He defines worth through what gets done, not who you are. This creates a hamster wheel of constant striving. Something gets achieved, graduation, promotion, relationship milestone, and instead of satisfaction, there's just the next goal, the next achievement, the next thing that will finally prove enoughness. The stage 2 animus is deeply concerned with image. How do you look to others? Are you impressive? Are you winning? He's internalized society's measures of success and made them into a prison. Many women live at stage 2 for years, building impressive careers, dating men who look good on paper, cultivating Instagram perfect lives, and experiencing misery, because none of it connects to any authentic inner truth. It's all performance, all achievement for achievement's sake, all about proving value. The stage 2 animus shows up in relationships as projection of the heroic ideal. There's no more attraction to primitive masculinity evolution past that has occurred. Now there's attraction to the man with potential, the man with a plan, the man who's going to achieve great things, the struggling artist who's going to make it, the startup founder, the grad student with big ideas. But here's the trap. There's projection of the personal need for heroic achievement onto him, looking for him to fulfill the heroic journey that should be taken personally. And when he inevitably fails to live up to the projection, when the startup fails, when the artist remains struggling, when the potential doesn't materialize, devastation follows. Not because a partner was lost, but because the projected animus was lost. At stage 2, the critical voice becomes more sophisticated. He doesn't just attack, he compares. She's more successful than you. He's more impressive. You're falling behind. You're not special. You're mediocre. It's psychological torture dressed up as motivation. The realization at this stage, father's approval has been replaced with society's approval, but there's still fundamental seeking of external validation for worth. The animus has evolved from primitive to purposeful, but he's still running the show, and he's running it according to other people's rules. Women at stage 2 often end up in relationships where they're either trying to fix or inspire a man to reach his potential, playing out the personal heroic animus through him, competing with a man, keeping score, trying to be equally or more accomplished, ego combat, feeling abandoned when a man prioritizes his goals over the relationship, because his ambition triggers animus wounds. Consider the woman dating an incredibly ambitious man, successful, driven, always working on the next thing. She's attracted to that, mirrors her own stage 2 animus. But they barely see each other. Every date is squeezed between meetings. Every conversation eventually becomes about goals and plans and achievements. One night, she tries to talk about something she's feeling, not thinking, feeling, and he immediately tries to solve it, gives her a 5-point plan, makes it into a project. And the realization hits. Neither of them knows how to just be. They only know how to do. That's stage 2. Exhausting. Ultimately empty. Because achievement without authentic selfhood is just performance. You can be wildly successful externally and completely lost internally. Moving past stage 2 requires something that might sound simple, but is actually radical. Stopping the definition of self through accomplishment and external validation. This doesn't mean becoming unambitious. It means reconnecting achievement to authentic inner values rather than external metrics. Ask, what do I actually want, separate from what others expect or what looks impressive? What brings genuine satisfaction versus what brings validation? Eros needs development the capacity for relatedness, feeling, being, rather than just doing. Stage 2 is all logos, all action, all achievement. Balance requires cultivating the ability to simply exist without purpose, to rest without guilt, to value yourself as a being rather than as a producing machine. Start noticing when validation gets sought. When sharing good news, is there excitement about the thing itself, or about how others will perceive you for it? When choosing a goal, whose voice is really setting that goal? Yours or the internalized animus parroting society's expectations? In relationships, stop projecting the hero archetype. The search isn't for someone to save you or complete you, or fulfill ambitions through their achievements. The search is for someone who sees you as already whole, already valuable, already enough not for what you do, but for who you are. And crucially, question the critical voice when he compares you to others. That voice operates from a stage 2 consciousness that believes worth is relative and competitive. The truth is, your value isn't diminished by someone else's success, and their value isn't diminished by yours. That's a stage 3 realization, but practice can begin now. Jung called stage 3 the bearer of the word, the animus as professor, clergyman, orator. At this stage, masculine energy manifests as intellect, knowledge, meaning-making, and communication of truth. This is the animus as wisdom keeper, as the one who articulates deep truths and universal principles. This is a massive evolution. Primitive impulse, stage 1, and ego achievement, stage 2, have been transcended, and now operation happens in the realm of meaning, wisdom, and truth. Consider these carefully. Is there constant searching for meaning? Not just success, but significance? Not just accomplishment, but purpose? Is there attraction to philosophy, spirituality, psychology, deep thinking? Extensive reading, taking courses, constantly trying to understand self and world at a deeper level? In conversations, does explaining, teaching, sharing insights happen often? Do people come to you for advice or perspective? Has questioning begun of everything once believed? The beliefs from upbringing, society's narratives, the goals previously chased? Does it all feel a bit hollow or arbitrary now? Is there value placed on being right, being knowledgeable, being wise? Does it bother you when something isn't known, or when someone challenges your perspective? Has attraction in relationships evolved to intellectual connection, deep conversations, philosophical alignment, mental stimulation over physical chemistry or status? Is there sometimes disconnection from body, emotions, instincts, like living too much in the head? Is the critical voice now more about judgment of ignorance or lack of understanding? You should know better. You're supposed to be evolved. Why are you still making that mistake? If this resonates, the operation is at stage 3. Stage 3 is where many spiritually oriented, intellectually developed, self-aware women find themselves. The work has been done. The books have been read. The patterns are understood. Complex psychological concepts can be articulated and society's illusions seen through. This is powerful. The stage 3 animus gives access to wisdom, discernment, and the ability to make meaning from experience. There's no more control, by primitive impulses or ego achievements. Operation happens from a higher level of consciousness. But, and this is crucial, there's still a trap here. At stage 3, the animus can become tyrannical in his insistence on meaning and understanding. Everything has to mean something. Every experience must be analyzed, interpreted, fit into a framework. You can't just feel sad. You have to understand why there's sadness, what it represents, what deeper pattern it's pointing to. This creates a kind of intellectual bypassing where there's constant head-dwelling, constant analyzing, never just experiencing. Many women hit stage 3 in their early 30s after years of therapy and self-development work. Every pattern can be explained. Attachment style is understood. Defense mechanisms, shadow, inner child, animus. Jung gets read. Philosophy gets studied. Holding your own happens in any intellectual conversation about psychology or meaning. And misery can exist in a completely different way than before, because there's such focus on understanding life that actual living doesn't happen. An emotional reaction occurs, and there's immediate jumping to, what does this mean? Meeting someone leads to analyzing the dynamic instead of just enjoying their company. Having an experience means spending more time interpreting it than being present in it. The stage 3 animus has become a defense mechanism, a way to maintain control through understanding, to keep messy, chaotic, irrational life at arm's length. At stage 3, attraction is to intellectual men. The professor, the philosopher, the therapist, the spiritual teacher. The desire is for someone who can engage at a deep level, who understands the concepts of interest, who can have those 3 a.m. conversations about the nature of reality. This isn't wrong, but it can lead to relationships that are intellectually stimulating but emotionally arid. Both partners analyze the relationship instead of feeling it, talking about intimacy instead of experiencing it, knowing all the right words but forgetting the language of the body, of silence, of simple presence. Consider a woman dating a psychologist at this stage. Their conversations are incredible deep dives into Jung, attachment theory, existential philosophy. Anything can be analyzed. Everything understood. All of it articulated perfectly. But when his father dies, and he just needs to be held and cry, he can't. He intellectualizes his grief, talks about the stages of mourning, analyzes his feelings instead of feeling them. And she does the same thing, tries to understand his process instead of just being present with him in his pain. That's the stage 3 trap. Such development in thinking that being has become underdeveloped. The critical voice at this stage is sophisticated and insidious. He doesn't attack worth or compare achievements anymore. Now he attacks level of consciousness. You should be past this. You know better. Why are you still triggered? You're supposed to be evolved. This reaction proves you're not as developed as you thought. It's spiritual bypassing in voice form. It's the animus wielding understanding as a weapon against messy humanity. Here's what Jung understood about stage 3 that most people miss. The animus at this stage can become possessed by collective opinions and dogma. Independent thinking isn't happening, authorities are being channeled. Maybe that's Jung himself, or a therapist, or a spiritual tradition, or the self-help books consumed. Truth seems to be spoken, but concepts absorbed are actually being parroted. Society's achievement metrics have been replaced with spirituality's enlightenment metrics, but there's still measurement, still falling short, still striving. And there's often subtle arrogance here. I understand things others don't. I'm more conscious. I've done the work. That superiority is ego in disguise, using spiritual and psychological concepts to assert itself in a socially acceptable way. Moving from stage 3 to stage 4 requires something paradoxical: willingness to not know, to not understand, to not have everything figured out. Descent from head into heart and body becomes necessary. This isn't regression, it's integration. The wisdom and understanding gained doesn't get lost. They just stop being used as defenses against raw, immediate, irrational experience. Start practicing being with experiences without interpreting them. Sit with sadness without asking what it means. Feel anger without analyzing where it comes from. Experience joy without explaining why it's being felt. Just be present with what is, as it is, without the mediating layer of understanding. In relationships, practice silence. Practice physical presence without words. Practice simply holding someone without trying to fix or understand them. Practice being confused, being wrong, being uncertain. And most importantly, start questioning whether independent thinking is actually happening or authorities are being channeled. When conviction exists about something, ask, is this lived truth, or is this something taught to believe? Is speaking happening from authentic understanding or from borrowed concepts? The transition to stage 4 happens when deep wisdom can be held while remaining grounded in immediate, embodied experience. When profound thinking happens, but full feeling also occurs. When understanding serves life instead of replacing it. Stage 4 is what Jung called the animus, as Hermes, the mediator between consciousness and the unconscious, between ego and self. At this stage, the animus has transcended all previous forms and become a true guide to inner wisdom and wholeness. This is the rarest stage, and honestly, it's more of a direction than a permanent state. Even the most integrated people fluctuate, but when stage 4 gets touched, even briefly, it's unmistakable. These aren't really questions, they're recognitions. Do you experience moments of deep inner knowing that don't come from thinking but from something deeper? An intuitive wisdom that arises spontaneously? Has peace been made with paradox? Can opposing truths be held simultaneously without needing to resolve them? Is there genuine feeling of connection to something larger than yourself, not as a concept, but as a lived experience? Has seeking external validation stopped entirely? Not as an achievement, but as a natural state approval from others, just isn't needed to know worth? Can you be with suffering yours or others without needing to fix it, explain it, or escape it? Are masculine and feminine aspects experienced as integrated rather than in conflict? Both available, both valued, flowing naturally depending on what's needed. Has the critical voice transformed into something else entirely? A wise inner presence that guides without judging, corrects without shaming? Is there less feeling of being a separate self, struggling through life, and more feeling like consciousness experiencing itself through a particular form? If these qualities are being experienced consistently, stage 4 is being touched. At stage 4, the animus is no longer a voice, an influence, or even a distinct presence. He's integrated. The masculine and feminine within are in dynamic balance, each supporting the other. There's access to logos logic, structure, boundary, direction, and eros feeling. Flow, connection, receptivity, and movement between them happens fluidly. The stage 4 animus doesn't tell you what to do. He doesn't criticize or compare or push. Instead, he reveals. He opens doors to deeper understanding. He connects you to wisdom that doesn't come from books or teachers, but from your own depths. This is the animus as truly helpful, as genuinely supportive of wholeness rather than ego's agenda. He's no longer invested in you being primitive, successful, or enlightened. He's invested in you being authentic, whole, real. At this stage, seeking has stopped. Not seeking approval, not seeking achievement, not seeking understanding, not seeking enlightenment. There's simply presence with what is, authentic responding to what life brings, grounded in deep trust in inner guidance. Jung experienced this himself in his later years. If you read his late work, especially his autobiography, Memories, Dreams, Reflections, you can feel the shift. There's less need to prove, to explain, to convince. Just profound sharing of lived wisdom. At stage 4, relationships become completely different. Animus projection no longer happens because he's integrated. There's no looking for primitive passion, heroic achievement, or intellectual stimulation to complete you. Completion already exists. This doesn't mean absence of desire for relationship, but the desire comes from wholeness wanting to share itself, not from lack seeking to be filled. Attraction to people happens for who they actually are, not for what they represent or what they can give. Conflict in relationship becomes an opportunity for mutual revelation rather than a problem to solve or avoid. Being separate and connected happens simultaneously. Being strong and vulnerable. Leading and following. The stage 4 woman in relationship is genuinely powerful in a way that doesn't need to assert itself. Self-knowledge exists. Self-trust exists. There's no need for a partner to validate, complete, or save. But there's also genuine openness, receptivity, vulnerability, not because there should be, but because there can be from a place of strength. Here's the test. Can you be with chaos without needing to control it? Can you be with uncertainty without anxiously seeking answers? Can you be with your own darkness without judgment? If yes, stage 4 is being touched. If there's still self-judgment for not being there yet, stage 3 is the location. If measurement is happening against these descriptions, trying to figure out how to achieve stage 4, stage 2 is the location. If this all sounds like too much thinking, stage 4 might be closer than believed. The paradox is that stage 4 can't be strived for. It emerges when striving stops. It appears when trying to transcend the current stage ends and full acceptance begins. Animus integration happens not by defeating him or perfecting him, but by accepting him, understanding him, and ultimately recognizing him as an aspect of wholeness. Stage 1 still wrestling with primitive impulses, struggling with basic boundaries, attracted to raw masculine energy. Stage 2 driven by achievement and external validation, exhausting yourself proving worth. Stage 3 endlessly analyzing, understanding everything but experiencing nothing, trapped in a brilliant mind? Or are you touching stage 4 integrated, whole, present, trusting inner wisdom? Here's what needs understanding. Wherever you are is exactly where you need to be right now. This isn't a race. Stage 4 isn't better in the sense of making you more valuable. It's just more integrated, more whole, more free. And evolution doesn't happen by rejecting the current stage. Evolution happens by fully inhabiting it, understanding it, learning its lessons, and naturally outgrowing it when it's time. Most people have been at all 4 stages at different points in life, and honestly, cycling through them still happens depending on the situation. Under extreme stress, the stage 1 animus can still emerge, that primitive, reactive energy. In career contexts, the stage 2 animus still whispers about achievement and recognition. When learning something new, the stage 3 animus wants to understand everything before acting. But increasingly, pattern catching becomes possible. Recognition of which stage is operating happens. And that recognition itself creates space to choose a different response, to access a more integrated part of self. That's the real gift of understanding animus development. Not perfection, but awareness. Not arrival, but direction. Not transcendence, but integration. The animus isn't an enemy. He's an aspect of the psyche trying to help engagement with the world. At stage 1, he's giving the energy to survive and assert. At stage 2, he's giving the drive to achieve and create. At stage 3, he's giving the wisdom to understand and make meaning. At stage 4, he's connecting to something deeper than ego to the self, to wholeness, to authentic being. The question isn't how to get rid of him. It's how to work with him consciously, how to develop him skillfully, how to integrate him so that masculine and feminine within are dancing together rather than at war. So take this assessment not as judgment, but as invitation. An invitation to greater self-awareness, to conscious development, to psychological freedom. And remember, Jung didn't create these stages as a measuring stick for worth. He created them as a map for becoming. You're exactly where you need to be. And wherever that is, a next step is available. Thanks for taking this journey. Drop a comment letting us know what stage resonated most. Every single one gets read, and hearing your experience would be valuable. Now go integrate your animus. He's been waiting.